You versus You, The Battle for Your Best Self, written and published by Vox Reads. Introduction. The real enemy within. You are your greatest ally and your greatest enemy. Every day, a silent battle takes place inside you, between the person you are and the person you could become. This battle decides everything. Your growth, your success, your peace of mind. It's not the world that holds you back. It's not your circumstances, your past or your luck. It's the habits you protect, the excuses you believe, the fears you refuse to face. This book is not about fighting others. It's about mastering yourself, because the truth is simple. You can't win in life until you win within. You vs You is your guide through that inner war. It's a map for those who are tired of their own limits, for those who know they can be more, but don't know how to break free. Here, you'll learn how to face your comfort zones and destroy them. You'll learn the discipline that turns potential into power. You'll learn how to silence doubt and act with purpose. And most of all, you'll learn how to stay consistent, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. This is not a motivational speech. It's a wake-up call, a challenge to stop fighting the world and start fighting the part of you that resists change. The part that says, I'll start tomorrow. The part that says, it's too late. The part that says, I'm not ready. That voice is the enemy. And this time, you will not listen. Through these chapters you will learn to see progress as a daily battle, not a distant dream. You will learn how to turn pain into fuel, habits into victories, and purpose into strength. The journey begins with a choice to face yourself, a choice to stop running, a choice to win the war inside. This is You vs You, and the battle for your best self starts right now. Chapter 1. The Mirror Test. Look in the mirror, not the quick glance you give in the morning before you rush into your day. I mean really. Look. What do you see? Not your reflection, but your reality. Because the mirror never lies. It doesn't show your dreams. It shows your decisions. The mirror test is simple, but it's not easy. It's the moment you stop pretending. The moment you face the truth about who you are right now, not who you say you are, or who you hope to become. For most people, that moment never comes. They move through life avoiding their own reflection. They distract themselves with noise, work, entertainment, excuses, anything that keeps them from seeing the gap between who they are and who they could be. But if you want to win the battle for your best self, you have to face that reflection. You have to look long enough to see both sides. The version of you that settles, and the version of you that's still waiting to be unleashed. Facing the truth. Here's the truth that most people never want to say out loud. You can't change what you refuse to confront. We all have blind spots. We all tell ourselves stories to make our choices feel right. I'm tired. I don't have time. I'll start next week. But every time you say those words, the old version of you wins another round. The lazy, fearful, uncertain self grows stronger, not because it's powerful, but because you let it lead. The mirror test exposes that truth. It forces you to stop justifying and start observing. Take a moment and imagine this. You're standing in front of a mirror that doesn't show your face. It shows your habits. It shows your effort. It shows your discipline, your excuses, your wasted hours, your unspoken dreams. What would that reflection look like? Would you be proud? Or would you feel that quiet pull? That voice whispering, you could be more. It's the real you buried beneath comfort and distraction, and it's waiting for you to finally look long enough to listen. The story of two reflections. Let me share a story. There was a young man who wanted to change his life. He felt stuck, trapped between what he wanted and what he actually did. Every morning, he promised himself he'd do better. He'd wake up early. He'd work harder. He'd follow through. But each night he looked in the mirror and saw the same tired face carrying the same broken promises. One night he finally spoke out loud. He said, "I'm tired of letting myself down." And for the first time, he didn't look away. He stood there, not judging, not hiding, just honest. And that was the night everything changed. He didn't become perfect. He became aware. And awareness is where transformation begins. That young man could be anyone. He could be you. He could be me. Because we all fight that same war inside. The war between intention and action. Awareness before action. The first step in growth isn't action. It's awareness. Because you can't improve what you don't understand. When you face yourself in the mirror, ask simple questions. What do I really want? What habits are keeping me from it? Am I proud of how I use my time? Do I honor my word to myself? Don't answer quickly. Listen. Because your mind already knows the truth. It's just been buried under years of avoidance. Once you see clearly, everything changes. Clarity gives you control. You can't always change your circumstances, but you can always change your choices. And when your choices change, your reflection follows. The courage to be honest. Honesty with yourself is the hardest honesty there is. It's easy to lie to others. It's easy to smile and pretend. But deep down, you always know when you're not giving your best. The mirror test demands courage. Not to be perfect, but to be real. You're not competing with anyone else. You're not trying to look better than others. You're trying to become better than your old self. And here's the truth. The person who can be brutally honest with themselves can never be defeated for long, because they always come back stronger, wiser, and more focused. Action step. The 5-minute reflection. Try this tonight. Stand in front of the mirror for 5 minutes. No distractions. No phone. No noise. Ask yourself, am I living as the person I promised myself I'd be? If the answer is no, don't feel shame. Feel gratitude, because you've found the truth. And the truth is the starting line of every transformation. From now on, the mirror is not your enemy. It's your accountability partner. It doesn't care about your excuses. It reflects your effort, and effort never lies. Closing thought. The mirror test is not a one-time moment. It's a daily habit, a ritual that reminds you to stay aware, stay honest, and stay in control. The more you face yourself, the more you'll grow. Because the reflection you see today is not your limit. It's your launch pad. So tomorrow when you stand before the mirror, again, don't just see who you are, see who you're becoming. And remember, the person staring back at you is not your enemy. They are your unfinished masterpiece. Chapter 2. The Comfort Trap. Comfort feels good. It's warm. It's safe. It's familiar. But here's the truth. Most people never admit. Comfort is a silent killer. It doesn't attack you loudly. It doesn't warn you. It just slowly drains your potential, until there's nothing left but routine and regret. You don't notice it at first. You call it peace. You call it balance. But in time, comfort becomes the cage you built for yourself. The comfort trap is one of the hardest battles in the journey of self-mastery, because it doesn't come with alarms. It comes disguised as success. It makes you believe that slowing down is the same as being content. But comfort and contentment are not the same. Contentment is peace after growth. Comfort is peace without progress. The subtle enemy. The comfort trap starts with small choices. You skip one workout. You delay one project. You tell yourself, I deserve a break. And maybe you do. But soon that break becomes a pattern. You stop challenging yourself. You stop chasing the edge. And without realizing it, your life shifts from creation to maintenance. Growth doesn't live in comfort. It never has. Every person you admire, the athlete, the artist, the entrepreneur, all of them had to choose discomfort. They had to do what others wouldn't, so they could live how others couldn't. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is simple. Ordinary people protect their comfort. Extraordinary people protect their growth. The story of the frog. There's an old story about a frog. If you drop a frog into boiling water, it jumps out instantly. But if you place the frog in cool water and slowly heat it, it stays. The temperature rises bit by bit until it's too late to escape. That's how comfort works. It doesn't hurt at first. It just warms you slowly, until you stop noticing that your ambition is fading. One day you wake up, and the fire inside you is gone, not because you failed, but because you stopped trying. You let the water get warm, and you got used to it. The question is, how warm is your water right now? Are you sitting in a life that feels fine, but no longer challenges you? That's the danger of comfort. It makes average feel acceptable. The illusion of safety. People stay in comfort because they think it's safe, but it's not. Comfort doesn't protect you. It weakens you. When you stay too long in your comfort zone, you stop adapting. You stop learning. And in a world that's constantly changing, that's the most dangerous thing you can do. You think you're safe because everything feels stable, but life doesn't stay still. The world keeps moving, and comfort keeps you standing still. The truth is, discomfort is the only safe place to grow. It keeps you sharp. It keeps you humble. It keeps you alive. Breaking the trap, escaping the comfort trap, doesn't mean you have to live in pain. It means you must learn to live with challenge, to replace comfort with curiosity. Start small. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Take a cold shower. Say yes to something that scares you. Each act of discomfort builds resilience, and resilience builds confidence. When you challenge yourself daily, the mind learns a powerful lesson, that growth feels better than comfort. It might hurt for a moment, but it heals for a lifetime. You begin to crave the stretch, the challenge, the discipline, because you realize that true satisfaction doesn't come from ease. It comes from effort. A real-world example. Think about the people who achieve incredible transformations in fitness, business, or mindset. They're not superhuman. They simply learned how to stop negotiating with their comfort. A runner who wakes before dawn doesn't do it because it's easy. They do it because they've trained their mind to value progress over pleasure. A writer who finishes a book doesn't do it because they always feel inspired. They do it because they've learned to sit with the discomfort of doubt. Comfort whispers, "You can rest." Discipline replies, "You can rest after you've earned it." That's the difference. One voice seeks peace before growth. The other seeks growth before peace. The challenge. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, do one thing that makes you uncomfortable. Something you've been avoiding. It doesn't matter how small it seems. What matters is the message you send to your mind, that you are in control, not your comfort. If you keep doing this, something powerful happens. The unknown becomes familiar, fear becomes fuel, and the comfort trap loses its grip. You begin to see discomfort not as punishment, but as a teacher. Because every time you step outside your comfort zone, you discover a new piece of who you really are. Closing thought. The comfort trap is where dreams quietly die. It feels peaceful, but it steals your progress one easy day at a time. The goal is not to destroy comfort. It's to control it. Use comfort as recovery, not as a lifestyle. Let it serve your growth, not replace it. The best version of you is never found in ease. It's found in effort. In the moments when your body says stop, but your purpose says go. So step outside the warmth. Let the cold air wake you up. Because the life you want, the growth, the change, the fulfillment, is waiting just beyond the edge of comfort. Chapter 3. The Power of Choice. Every day you wake up to a war of choices. What time you rise, what thoughts you feed, what actions you take. Each one shapes your day, your habits, and eventually your life. Choice is the foundation of all progress. It's the root of every transformation, and yet, most people underestimate it. They think change begins with luck, talent, or opportunity, but it begins long before that. It begins with a single decision. You are the sum of your choices, not your intentions, not your dreams. Your choices, the invisible power. Choice is invisible, but it's always working. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you cast a vote for the old you. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you cast a vote for the new you. Each small choice may seem unimportant in the moment, but over time, those choices become habits, and habits become identity. Think of it like this. Every decision is a seed. You plant it through your action, and in time it grows into a result. Some seeds grow success, others grow regret. The soil doesn't judge the seed. It simply grows whatever you plant. That's how life works. It doesn't decide for you. It just reflects the choices you've made. The illusion of someday. Many people live waiting for the right time. They say, someday I'll start. Someday I'll change. Someday I'll commit. But someday isn't on the calendar. It's a myth that comforts the hesitant. The longer you wait to choose, the more you teach your mind to delay. You can't escape choice by not choosing. Even doing nothing is a decision. And that decision has consequences. You are always choosing, consciously or unconsciously. The question is, who is in control? The version of you that wants growth, or the one that wants comfort? A story about direction. Let's imagine two friends, Adam and Ben. Both start at the same point in life. Both have big dreams. Adam decides to make one small change each day. He reads 10 pages of a book. He exercises for 20 minutes. He chooses water instead of soda. Ben tells himself he'll start next month. He sleeps in. He skips the reading. He chooses ease over effort. A year later, Adam and Ben are standing in very different places. Not because of one giant decision, but because of hundreds of small ones. That's the true power of choice. It compounds quietly. You rarely notice it day by day, but over time it transforms everything. The small decisions no one sees create the results everyone wants. The moment of decision. Every meaningful choice has a moment, a point of tension. You feel it in your chest, that tiny resistance between I should and I will. That's the battlefield. That's where the old you and the new you meet face to face. In that moment you have two voices. One says, take the easy path. The other says, do what's right. The difference between those two voices is your destiny. It doesn't take a hero to choose the hard way. It just takes honesty. The courage to do what your future self will thank you for. When you learn to win that small battle, Again and again, you begin to trust yourself, and that trust builds power. Owning your choices. Here's a truth most people avoid. You are where you are because of the choices you've made. Not fate. Not luck. Choice. That might sound harsh, but it's liberating. Because if your choices created your past, your choices can also create your future. Taking ownership doesn't mean blaming yourself. It means empowering yourself. It means realizing that you always have the ability to choose differently. Even in hard times, you can choose your attitude. Even when things fall apart, you can choose how you respond. And that single choice often makes the difference between falling apart and rising stronger. You may not control the events, but you always control your response. That's the essence of power. Responsibility. The ability to respond. Small choices. Big shifts. When people think of change, they imagine big leaps. But real change happens in small, consistent choices. You don't need to overhaul your life in a day. You just need to choose differently. One moment at a time. Wake up when you said you would. Eat what nourishes you instead of what numbs you. Speak kindly instead of complaining. Read a page instead of scrolling endlessly. Each small choice strengthens your inner voice, the one that wants more for you. And soon those little victories start building momentum. Momentum that no obstacle can stop. The freedom of decision. Choice is not a burden. It's freedom. It means your future is not locked. You can redirect your life at any moment through a single decision. The question is, will you use that freedom, or will you give it away? To fear, to doubt, to excuses. When you realize the weight of your power, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop blaming the past. You stop hoping for luck. And you start choosing your way forward, one decision at a time. The moment you decide who you will be, everything else begins to shift around that decision. Because clarity always follows choice. Closing thought. The power of choice is the foundation of your transformation. Every great life is built one decision at a time. You don't need more time. You don't need more luck. You just need to choose differently. Today, the old you will always whisper, stay where it's safe. But the new you is waiting on the other side of a single brave choice. So decide. Decide to rise. Decide to grow. Decide to fight for your best self right now. Because your life changes the moment you stop waiting and start choosing. Chapter 4. The Inner Critic. There's a voice inside your head. You know the one. It questions your worth. It doubts your potential. It reminds you of every mistake you've made. That voice is your inner critic. It sounds like you, but it's not you. It's the echo of every fear you've ever believed, every failure you never forgave, every comparison that made you feel smaller. It hides behind reason. It disguises itself as logic, but its true purpose is simple: to keep you from growing. The voice that never sleeps. The inner critic doesn't shout. It whispers. It slips in between your thoughts. It speaks when you hesitate. It says things like, you're not ready. You're not good enough. What if you fail? And sometimes it's so convincing that you mistake it for truth. You start believing those words. You start acting smaller than you are. The critic thrives on repetition. The more you listen, the stronger it gets. It feeds on your hesitation, your doubt, your silence. But here's what most people never realize. The critic's power doesn't come from its words. It comes from your attention. What you focus on grows. What you ignore fades. The critic may speak, but it only wins if you listen. Where the critic comes from, that voice wasn't born with you. It was built from years of experiences, mistakes and judgments. It may sound like a parent who was never satisfied, a teacher who made you feel small, a friend who laughed at your dream. Over time you took those outside voices and made them your own. You internalized them, and now they live rent-free in your mind. But here's the truth. The critic doesn't know who you've become. It's still talking to the old you, the one who didn't know better. You've grown since then. You've learned. You've endured. But your critic still speaks the language of your past. And every time you listen, you hand it the keys to your future. The story of a painter. There was once a young painter who dreamed of creating art that would move the world. But every time he started a new piece, he froze. He'd stare at the blank canvas and hear a voice saying, "Who do you think you are? You'll never be great. Someone else is already doing it better." One day, an older artist saw his frustration and asked, "Why do you stop painting?" The young man replied, "Because my mind tells me it won't be perfect." The older artist smiled and said, "Then paint badly, but paint anyway." The young painter didn't understand at first, but he picked up his brush and began again. The first strokes were messy. The colors clashed, but something changed. The more he painted, the quieter the critic became, because the critic feeds on inaction. It dies in movement. That's the secret. You silence the inner critic, not by arguing, but by acting, learning to separate the voices. Your inner critic will never fully disappear. It's part of being human, but you can learn to separate its voice from your truth. When it speaks, pause and ask, whose voice is this? Is this fear, or is this fact? Most of the time you'll find it's fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. But fear is not a fact. It's only a feeling, and feelings lose power when you face them with awareness. Once you see the critic for what it is, an echo, not a guide, you can move forward with confidence again. Turning the critic into a coach. You don't have to destroy the critic, you can transform it. Instead of letting it attack you, train it to question you with purpose. When it says, "You can't," reply, "Why not?" When it says, "You'll fail," answer, "Then I'll learn." You can turn that voice from an enemy into a mentor, one that challenges you to grow instead of shrink. Great performers, athletes, and leaders all have an inner critic, but they've learned how to redirect it. They use it to refine, not to retreat. The difference between self-doubt and self-destruction is direction. Point the voice toward growth, and it becomes your greatest teacher. An exercise for the mind. Try this simple exercise tonight. When the critic speaks, write down what it says. Then, beside it, write the truth. For example, the critic says, "You're not ready." The truth is, no one feels ready. I'll start anyway. The critic says, "You always fail." The truth is, I've failed before, and come back stronger. This practice weakens the critic's control, because once its words are on paper, they lose their power in your mind. You start to see that most of its messages are just recycled fears, old scripts that no longer apply to your life. The cost of believing the critic. Every dream that dies early, every goal abandoned too soon, usually has one killer: the inner critic. It doesn't destroy your dreams in one blow. It does it slowly, whisper by whisper, until you stop believing in yourself. But when you stop listening, something beautiful happens. You start hearing another voice, the inner coach, the one that says, "Try again, learn from it, keep going." That voice is quiet at first, but with every act of courage, It grows louder, until one day, it drowns out the critic completely. Closing thought. The inner critic will always be there. It will always have something to say. But remember this. It only speaks because it fears your potential. The critic attacks when you're about to rise. It gets loudest right before you grow. So the next time that voice says, "You can't," smile and say, "Thank you for reminding me that I'm on the edge of becoming." Don't silence it with fear. Outgrow it with action. Because the critic cannot survive in the presence of progress. Keep moving. Keep creating. Keep growing. Because the only voice that truly defines you is the one that believes you still can. Chapter 5. The Discipline Divide. Everyone wants success, but not everyone is willing to cross the divide that separates wanting from doing. That divide is called discipline. It's the invisible line between dreams and reality, between potential and progress, between who you are and who you could become. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about alignment. It's the act of bringing your daily actions in line with your deepest values. And in that alignment lies power. The two versions of you. Every day, two versions of you wake up. One wants comfort, warmth, ease, rest. The other wants growth, challenge, progress, fulfillment. They both live inside you. They both want to lead. The one that wins determines your future. Discipline is what decides which one takes control. It's not motivation. It's not emotion. It's not luck. Motivation fades. Emotion changes. But discipline endures. It's the habit of doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. That's the true battle. Not between success and failure, but between discipline and delay. The myth of motivation. Too many people wait to feel ready. They wait for the spark, the inspiration, the perfect moment. But that moment rarely comes. Motivation is like the weather. It changes from day to day. You can't build your life around it. Discipline is the climate. Steady, reliable, constant. It doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you've decided. The disciplined person doesn't ask, "Do I feel like it?" They ask, "Did I promise myself I would?" And that one question changes everything. The bridge between goals and growth. Everyone sets goals. Few build bridges to reach them. Discipline is that bridge. Without it, dreams stay dreams. With it, even ordinary goals turn into extraordinary results. Think of a musician practicing scales for hours. A writer typing through fatigue. A builder showing up at dawn to work through the rain. None of them rely on excitement. They rely on rhythm. A steady beat of consistency. Discipline turns repetition into mastery. And mastery turns effort into excellence. Every masterpiece was built one disciplined day at a time. The story of the runner. There was once a runner who trained every morning before sunrise. One day, someone asked, "How do you stay so disciplined?" The runner smiled and said, "I'm not always disciplined. I'm just someone who stopped negotiating." He explained, "Every morning, I hear two voices. One says, 'Stay in bed.' The other says, 'Get up and run.' And I decided a long time ago which voice wins." That's the heart of discipline. Removing the debate. When you stop arguing with yourself, you free up your energy for action. The disciplined mind doesn't waste time deciding. It simply executes what it already knows is right. Discipline is freedom. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? That doing hard things gives you freedom. But it's true. Without discipline, you become a slave to your feelings. You do what's easy, and you suffer for it later. You give in to impulse and you lose control of direction. With discipline you gain control. You earn peace of mind. You move with purpose. Freedom is not the absence of rules. It's the presence of self-control. When you master your habits, you master your life. Building the muscle of consistency. Discipline is like a muscle. You build it through repetition, not intensity. Start small. Do one thing every day that aligns with your goals, even when it feels insignificant. It's training your mind to obey your decisions, not your emotions. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. Soon, discipline stops feeling like resistance. It becomes rhythm. The gym becomes routine. The reading becomes habit. The early wake-up becomes natural. And what once felt impossible becomes automatic. That's when you know you've crossed the divide. When discipline feels like a burden, there will be days when it feels heavy. When your mind screams for a break. When your effort feels unseen. That's when discipline is most valuable. Those days test your resolve. They separate temporary effort from true commitment. Remember, the weight you carry today becomes your strength tomorrow. Every disciplined act adds another layer to your foundation. You may not see the results immediately, but they are building silently beneath the surface. Discipline is the unseen architect of every lasting success. Practical steps to strengthen discipline. Here are a few simple principles to anchor your discipline. First, remove unnecessary choices. Decide once and stick to it. When your plan is clear, your mind has less room to argue. Second, track your wins. Even small victories matter. Each one reminds your brain that effort works. Third, set systems, not goals. Don't focus on the finish line. Focus on the daily habits that lead you there. Because goals inspire you once, but systems sustain you forever. Fourth, forgive yourself quickly. Discipline isn't perfection. It's persistence. Missing one day doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. Just don't miss twice. These steps might sound simple, but they're powerful when repeated consistently. The quiet reward. The greatest reward of discipline isn't success. It's self-respect. When you keep your word to yourself, you begin to trust yourself. That trust builds confidence that no one can give you and no one can take away. Success may come and go, but that inner pride, the knowledge that you did what you said you would, stays forever. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It's quiet, steady and deeply personal, but it's also the foundation upon which every extraordinary life is built. Closing thought. The discipline divide is real. On one side is comfort, excuses and inconsistency. On the other is growth, progress and freedom. Every choice you make moves you closer to one side or the other. There's no shortcut, no secret, no substitute. You cross the divide one disciplined day at a time. So tomorrow when the alarm rings and your mind whispers, "Not today," remember this. That's the moment that decides everything. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the right mood. Just move. Because the disciplined version of you is waiting. And once you meet that version, you'll never go back. Chapter 6. Breaking Old Patterns. You can't become someone new while living the same old patterns. You can't change your life by repeating the behaviors that built the one you're trying to escape. Breaking old patterns is one of the hardest parts of growth. Because patterns feel safe. They're familiar. They give you the illusion of control, even when they're keeping you stuck. But every new level of life demands a new version of you, and that version cannot exist inside the same old routines. The trap of repetition. Most people don't realize how predictable they are. They wake up the same way. They think the same thoughts. They react to the same problems. and they wonder why nothing changes. It's not bad luck. It's repetition. Life is a mirror. It reflects what you consistently do. If your actions stay the same, your results must stay the same. You don't attract a better life by wishing for one. You build it by interrupting the cycles that keep you ordinary. Where patterns come from. Old patterns are not random. They come from old experiences. The lessons you learned, the fears you adopted, the beliefs you accepted without question. Maybe you grew up believing you had to please everyone. Maybe you learned that failure was shameful. Maybe you convinced yourself that comfort was the same as happiness. Those lessons created patterns, automatic responses that once protected you, but now limit you. Your mind is not your enemy. It's just doing what it thinks will keep you safe. It repeats what's familiar because familiar feels safe. But safety and growth rarely live in the same place. The story of the caged bird. There's a story about a bird that lived its whole life in a cage. One day, someone opened the door, but the bird didn't fly away. It stayed perched inside, staring at freedom, too afraid to leave. The door was open, but the pattern was stronger than the possibility. That's what old habits do. They convince you that the cage is safer than the sky. They whisper that the unknown is too dangerous. But freedom always looks scary from inside the cage. You don't have to trust the sky immediately. You just have to take the first flight. Awareness is the first break. You can't break what you don't see. Awareness is the first crack in the pattern. Start by observing your habits without judgment. Notice what triggers your reactions. Notice when you procrastinate, when you retreat, when you make excuses. Every time you say, "That's just who I am," pause. That's not who you are. That's who you've practiced being. The difference between identity and pattern is repetition. You've just repeated the same response for so long that it feels like truth. But truth and comfort are not the same. Once you see the pattern clearly, you can begin to rewrite it. The power of disruption. Breaking patterns doesn't mean destroying your life. It means interrupting your automatic choices with conscious ones. If you always react with anger, pause before speaking. If you always avoid challenge, do one small uncomfortable thing today. If you always escape into distraction, sit with the silence for 5 minutes. Every interruption is a victory. Every conscious act weakens the old pattern's grip. You don't have to change overnight. You just have to stop living on autopilot. Each time you take control, the old version of you loses power. A real-world example. Think about someone who always gives up when things get hard. That pattern might have started years ago. Maybe they failed once and it hurt. So their brain built a new rule. If I don't try, I can't fail. It felt safe. But over time that safety became a prison. Now every time they face a challenge, they quit before they begin. Not because they're weak, but because the old pattern still runs the show. The only way to break that loop is through a new rule. I may fail, but I will not flee. That one sentence lived out daily is enough to rewire the mind. Because courage repeated becomes confidence, and confidence repeated becomes identity. Breaking the emotional loop. Most old patterns are emotional, not logical. They come from pain, rejection, shame, fear. You can't outthink an emotion. You have to outgrow it. The next time you feel yourself falling into an old pattern, don't fight it. Observe it. Say to yourself, "This feeling is familiar, but it's not who I am anymore." Emotions are like waves. They rise, they crash, they pass. You don't stop the waves by resisting them. You rise above them by learning to surf. That's emotional mastery. The ability to feel everything without being controlled by anything. Replacing, not removing. Here's the truth. You can't erase a habit. You can only replace it. If you remove a pattern and leave an empty space, your mind will fill it with the same behavior again. So replace reaction with reflection. Replace avoidance with action. Replace comfort with challenge. For example, if scrolling your phone numbs your stress, replace it with a 5-minute walk or deep breathing. If complaining has become a reflex, replace it with gratitude. Small shifts repeated daily create permanent change. Because the brain doesn't care whether a pattern helps or hurts. It only cares whether it's consistent. Your job is to make the right things consistent. The fear of letting go. Breaking old patterns also means letting go of old identities. That can be painful, because those identities, even if limiting, gave you stability. Maybe you were the quiet one, or the helper, or the one who never finishes. Those labels become comfort zones in disguise. You might outgrow them, but part of you still clings to them, because they feel safe, even when they hurt. Letting go isn't about rejecting who you were. It's about respecting that version of you, and then choosing to evolve beyond them. You're not betraying your past self. You're honoring them by continuing the journey they couldn't finish. Practical steps to break old patterns. Step 1. Identify the loop. Write down the habits or reactions that keep you stuck. Notice when they appear, and what triggers them. Step 2. Pause before reacting. That small moment of awareness gives you control. You can't always choose the trigger, but you can always choose your response. Step 3. Replace the routine. Do something new, even something small. The smallest shift in behavior creates a ripple of change in identity. Step 4. Reward the new behavior. Celebrate small wins. Acknowledgement reinforces the pattern you're building. Step 5. Stay patient. Old patterns don't vanish overnight. You didn't build them in a week, and you won't break them in one. Progress comes slowly, then suddenly. Closing thought. Breaking old patterns is the art of becoming conscious. It's the process of taking back authorship of your life. You can't rewrite your story if you keep repeating the same sentences. The old you was built by repetition. The new you will be built the same way, but this time with intention. Don't fear the change. Fear standing still, because the cage of old patterns may feel familiar, but it will never feel fulfilling. So open the door, step outside, and take your first flight toward freedom, because the sky has been waiting for you all along. Chapter 7. Pain and Progress. No one likes pain. We avoid it. We run from it. We label it as something bad, something to be escaped. But what if pain wasn't your enemy? What if pain was the signal that something inside you was ready to grow? Because the truth is this: growth and comfort cannot exist together. Progress always demands discomfort, and pain is often the proof that you're moving in the right direction. The nature of pain. Pain is not punishment. It's feedback. It's your body, your mind, and your spirit telling you that you're being stretched beyond your limits. It's the sound of old patterns breaking. It's the ache of new strength forming. Pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to shape you, to refine your focus, to test your will, to ask one question: how badly do you really want to grow? When you learn to listen to pain instead of resisting it, you begin to understand it, and that understanding changes everything. The story of the blacksmith. There's an old story about a blacksmith who forged swords. Every morning he'd heat the metal until it glowed. Then he'd strike it again and again. Someone once asked him, "Why do you hit it so hard? Doesn't that damage it?" He smiled and said, "No, the fire softens it. The hammer shapes it. The strikes make it strong. You are that metal. Life is the fire. And every challenge, every setback, every painful blow is shaping you into something stronger. The pain you feel is not breaking you. It's forging you. Why we resist pain? We resist pain because we mistake it for loss. We think, if it hurts it must be bad. But not all pain is harm. There's the pain of progress, and the pain of stagnation. The pain of progress builds you. The pain of stagnation drains you. The first comes from doing hard things that move you forward. The second comes from avoiding them and watching your potential fade. Either way there will be pain. You just have to choose which kind you want to live with. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The transformation zone. Growth always begins where comfort ends. It's the moment you feel resistance, that small voice saying, "This is too much." That's not a sign to stop. That's the threshold. That's the transformation zone. If you quit there, you'll never see what you were capable of becoming. But if you keep going, just one step further, that's where change happens. Muscles grow when they're torn. Confidence grows when it's tested. Wisdom grows when it's challenged. Every form of progress requires some form of pain. Emotional pain and its purpose. Not all pain is physical. Sometimes it's emotional. Heartbreak, failure, rejection. But even that pain has purpose. Emotional pain reveals your values. It shows you what truly matters. It reminds you that you're still alive, still capable of feeling deeply. It teaches empathy. It humbles the ego. It refines character. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet aren't those who avoided pain. They're the ones who met it, felt it fully, and turned it into wisdom. The lesson of the climb. Imagine climbing a mountain. The air gets thinner. Your legs burn. Your lungs ache. Halfway up, you start to question yourself. Why am I doing this? Wouldn't it be easier to turn back? But here's what's fascinating. The higher you climb, the more beautiful the view becomes. That's life. Every step of pain is a step toward perspective. The climb hurts, but the summit heals. When you finally reach that peak, not of mountains but of self-mastery, you realize the pain was never the enemy. It was the price of transformation. Learning to work with pain. You can't eliminate pain from life, but you can learn to work with it. Here's how. First, reframe it. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" That single shift turns pain into a teacher. Second, stay present. Don't project your suffering into the future. Pain feels bigger when you imagine it lasting forever. Focus on this moment, this breath, this step. Third, rest. But don't retreat. Rest is not quitting. It's gathering strength for the next round. The key is to pause, not to stop. Fourth, express it. Talk, write, create. Pain loses power when it's given purpose. When you turn pain into art, wisdom, or growth, you turn suffering into strength. A story of the athlete. There was an athlete who trained for years for a single race. In his final season, he tore a muscle just weeks before the championship. Everyone told him to quit, but he refused. He said, "Pain is not my enemy. It's my reminder." He healed slowly. He trained carefully. And when race day came, he didn't win first place, but he crossed the finish line stronger than ever. Not in body but in spirit. Because pain had taught him something no victory ever could. That endurance is more powerful than ease. Pain and purpose. Every purpose comes with pressure. Every dream comes with a cost. Pain is the toll you pay to cross from potential to power. It refines your purpose. It burns away what doesn't belong. The person who learns to endure pain with meaning becomes unstoppable. Because pain without purpose feels like punishment. But pain with purpose becomes progress. The difference lies in your interpretation. If you see pain as a curse, you'll run from it. If you see it as a teacher, you'll learn from it, turning pain into fuel. Fuel when you hurt. Remember this. Pain is energy. You can let it break you, or you can let it drive you. Some of the greatest achievements in history were born from pain. A broken heart, a lost opportunity, a devastating failure. Pain can ignite passion if you channel it. Let it push you forward, not hold you back. Fuel when you are still alive, still capable, still fighting. Progress doesn't mean you never hurt. It means you use your hurt to move higher. Closing thought. Pain is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're alive, growing and reaching beyond your comfort zone. Feel good in the moment, but it always feels worth it in the end. The pain of today is the strength of tomorrow. The struggle you're facing is the story you'll tell. So don't run from it. Don't numb it. Don't hide it. Embrace it. Learn from it. Let it shape you. Because the truth is simple. The most beautiful version of you will always be born on the other side of pain. Chapter 8. The Power of Daily Battles. Success doesn't happen in one grand moment. It happens quietly, in small, unseen victories that no one celebrates. The secret to transformation isn't found in a single leap. It's found in the daily steps that most people overlook. Every day, you're fighting battles no one sees. Battles against laziness, distraction, fear, and doubt. And though those fights may seem small, they are shaping who you become. Because greatness isn't built in a day. It's built daily. The hidden arena. Every morning, you enter the arena. Not a stadium filled with cheers, but the silent battlefield of your own choices. You fight to get up when it's easier to stay in bed. You fight to focus when your mind wants to drift. You fight to show up when no one is watching. Those small battles matter more than you think. Because every time you win one, you strengthen the muscle of consistency. And consistency, not intensity, is what builds unstoppable momentum. The daily battle is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up again and again, even when you don't feel like it. The myth of the big break. We love stories of overnight success. The one big moment. The lucky break. The sudden rise. But those moments are never really sudden. They're the visible result of years of invisible work. A writer's book hits the bestseller list. But no one saw the lonely nights spent rewriting each sentence. An athlete wins a gold medal, but no one remembers the early mornings and torn muscles. A business thrives, but few know about the failures that paved the way. The world sees the victory, but you live the battles. The truth is, the big moment is just the reward for winning 1,000 small ones. The story of the sculptor. There was once a sculptor who worked on a massive block of stone. Every day he chipped away, bit by bit. To others, it looked like nothing was happening. Days turned into weeks and the stone barely changed. But the sculptor didn't stop. He kept showing up, kept striking the same stone with the same rhythm, the same focus. And then one day, crack, the block split open, revealing a perfect statue inside. A man watching said, "That one strike did it." The sculptor smiled and replied, "No, it was all the strikes before that one." That's the power of daily battles. Each small effort builds pressure, strength and direction, until one day, everything changes. The cost of skipping days. It's easy to say, "I'll do it tomorrow." But here's the truth. Tomorrow never makes up for today. When you skip a day, You're not just losing time, you're losing momentum. And momentum is one of the hardest things to rebuild. Think of it like pushing a heavy cart. It's hardest to start, but once it's rolling, it gets easier. Each day you show up, you keep it moving. Each day you skip, the cart slows down. It's not about working harder, it's about never letting it stop. That's why small daily effort beats big bursts of inconsistent action. Because steady effort compounds. The habit of showing up becomes your identity, and identity always outlasts motivation. Winning the morning battle. Every day begins with your first decision. That first moment after you wake up. That's your first battle. Do you hit snooze or do you rise? Do you start your day with purpose or with distraction? That one choice sets the tone for everything that follows. Win the morning, and you'll likely win the day. Lose the morning, and you start behind. This doesn't mean perfection. It means awareness. It means waking up with intention instead of reaction. Every morning gives you a chance to practice victory. And those small wins add up to a stronger mindset over time. Momentum. The compounding effect. Momentum is magic. Once it starts, it carries you further than you expected. Each small win builds confidence. Each completed task strengthens your belief. Each act of discipline makes the next one easier. That's the compounding effect of daily battles. They create energy. They create identity. They create movement that can't be stopped easily. Success doesn't come from one massive push. It comes from continuous motion. The kind built by consistency, not bursts of effort. How to stay consistent. Consistency doesn't mean doing everything perfectly every day. It means doing something that moves you forward every day. Here's how to stay consistent when it gets hard. First, keep it simple. Don't chase perfection. Chase progress. Even a small win keeps the habit alive. Second, track your effort. Write it down. See your growth. Progress you can see is progress you'll protect. Third, forgive yourself fast. Missed a day. Don't spiral. Reset and return. Momentum is built on recovery, not guilt. Fourth, remember your why. Discipline fades without purpose. When you connect your effort to something meaningful, the work feels lighter. Every great performer, thinker, and creator lives by these principles, not because they're superhuman, but because they've mastered the rhythm of daily discipline, the battle you don't see. No one applauds you for waking up early. No one cheers when you choose the hard path. No one notices when you quietly stay consistent. But that's where real strength is built, in the moments no one sees. Because success is not about being seen, it's about being solid. The daily battles build a foundation no spotlight can fake. So when the world finally does see you, you're ready, not lucky. Because you've already fought the battles that others never had the courage to face. The long game, the secret to winning the daily battles is patience. You can't expect to feel progress every day. Some days you'll win easily, other days will feel like defeat. But consistency is not about how you feel. It's about who you're becoming. Over time, your small steady efforts become an unstoppable force. And then one day you look back and realize, the little things were never little, they were everything. Progress is rarely visible in the moment, but it's always happening behind the scenes. Closing thought. The power of daily battles is not in their size, it's in their repetition. Each act of effort is a vote for your future. Each disciplined day is a declaration of who you're becoming. Don't wait for the big victory. Win today. Win the morning. Win the small choices that no one else will notice. Because that's how great lives are built. Not through one great moment, but through thousands of quiet ones, stacked one on top of another, until one day, they form a life that feels unstoppable. The power of daily battles is simple. You don't need to conquer the world. You just need to conquer today. Chapter 9. The Voice of Purpose. There's a voice inside you that speaks softly, yet powerfully. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for attention. But when you listen closely, it changes everything. That voice is your purpose. Purpose is not found in noise. It's discovered in moments of silence, in the spaces between your doubts and your dreams. And when you learn to hear it, life begins to make sense again. Why purpose matters. Without purpose, even success feels empty. Without purpose, discipline becomes exhaustion. Without purpose, consistency feels like endless repetition. Purpose is what gives meaning to your effort. It's what turns work into fulfillment. It's the reason behind every sacrifice, every late night, every moment of pain you endure. When you know why you're doing something, you stop needing constant motivation. You stop chasing pleasure and start pursuing meaning. Purpose transforms struggle into strength. It makes hard things worth doing. The confusion of modern life. Today we live in a world filled with distractions. We scroll endlessly. We chase attention instead of intention. We compare our paths to others and wonder why we feel lost. That's what happens when you live without direction. You confuse activity with purpose. You fill your days, but you never fulfill your life. Purpose doesn't come from movement. It comes from meaning. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. When you live without purpose, everything feels urgent. When you live with purpose, only the right things do. The story of the lighthouse keeper. There was once a lighthouse keeper who lived by the sea. Every night, he climbed to the top to light the flame that guided ships safely through the dark. People in the nearby town laughed at him. They said, "Why do you bother? No one even sees you." He smiled and said, "They don't have to see me. They just have to see the light." That's what purpose is like. It's not always visible. It's not about applause or recognition. It's about the quiet certainty that your life matters, that your actions are guiding someone, even if you never meet them. Purpose doesn't need an audience. It needs faith. Finding your purpose. Most people wait for purpose to appear. They wait for a sign, a perfect opportunity, or a moment of clarity. But purpose isn't something you find. It's something you build. It begins as a whisper, a pull towards something meaningful. It grows stronger when you act on it. And with each step, it becomes clearer. To find your purpose, start asking better questions. Not what do I want, but what am I willing to serve? Not what makes me happy, but what makes me fulfilled. Happiness changes with the weather. Purpose stays steady through the storms. Pain and purpose. Remember this. Pain and purpose are often born in the same place. The things that once hurt you the most may one day help others heal. The losses you've endured, the failures you've faced, the lessons you've learned, they all shape your purpose. Pain refines passion. It clarifies what truly matters. That's why some of the world's most impactful people built their life's work from their deepest wounds. They turned suffering into service. Their purpose was born from their scars. So don't resent your pain. Redeem it. Let it guide you towards something greater. The voice within. You already know what your purpose sounds like. You've just learned to ignore it. It's that quiet nudge that says, "You're meant for more." It's the thought that won't leave you alone. The one that wakes you at night, asking you to try again. It's not the loud voice of ego that says, "Be important." It's the still voice of truth that says, "Be useful." The voice of purpose doesn't promise ease. It promises meaning. It doesn't tell you what's safe. It tells you what's right. And the more you follow it, the clearer it becomes. How to strengthen the voice. If you want to hear your purpose more clearly, create space for it to speak. First, embrace silence. Turn off the noise. Spend time alone with your thoughts. Purpose often hides beneath the sound of distraction. Second, reflect daily. Ask yourself, what felt meaningful today? You'll begin to notice patterns, clues to what drives you. Third, align your actions. Purpose grows when your choices reflect your values. Even small decisions can strengthen your sense of direction. Fourth, stay patient. Purpose doesn't shout its name all at once. It reveals itself through time, experience and commitment. You don't need to know the entire path. You just need to take the next right step. Living with purpose. Living with purpose doesn't mean your life will always feel exciting. It means it will always feel significant. You'll still face struggles, but they'll have meaning. You'll still feel tired, but you'll never feel empty. When you live with purpose, even ordinary days become sacred. Every act, no matter how small, contributes to something larger than yourself. You begin to see your life as a story, not of what you earned, but of what you gave. Purpose doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. It asks that you show up with integrity, even when no one's watching. Because the truth is, the most powerful lives are not the loudest. They're the most intentional. A personal reflection. Think back to a time when you felt deeply alive. It wasn't when things were easiest. It was when you were doing something that mattered. Maybe you were helping someone. Maybe you were creating. Maybe you were pushing through fear for something greater than yourself. That's purpose. The alignment of passion, service and meaning. It's not found in what you get. It's found in what you give. Closing thought. Purpose is not a destination. It's a direction. It's the compass that keeps you steady when life gets hard. When you forget why you started, listen for that voice again. It's quiet, but it's there, guiding you back to what's real. Don't ignore it. Don't doubt it. Follow it. Because when you move with purpose, even small steps lead to great places. And when you live with purpose, you don't just chase success. You create significance. That's the voice you must protect. That's the voice you must trust. Because that voice, the voice of purpose, is the one that will lead you to your best self. Chapter 10. Becoming your own hero. Every story we love has a hero. Someone who rises from struggle. Someone who faces fear and keeps going when others would stop. We grow up admiring heroes. We watch them in movies. We read about them in books. We imagine what it would be like to be one of them. But here's the truth. Most people never realize. The greatest hero you'll ever meet is the one inside you. Becoming your own hero isn't about perfection or glory. It's about courage. It's about answering the call to rise when life asks more of you. The call to rise. Every hero's story begins with a choice. A moment when they can stay where it's safe, or step into the unknown. You've faced that moment before. Maybe it came as a whisper. This isn't who I'm meant to be. Maybe it came as a challenge, a setback, or a dream that refused to die. That was your call. The voice of your higher self asking you to step forward. Most ignore it. They choose the comfort of the familiar over the risk of change. But the few who answer, they become something greater. Your story begins the moment you decide to stop waiting for someone to save you, and instead decide to save yourself. The hero's journey within. Every hero faces 3 stages: awakening, struggle, and transformation. Awakening happens when you realize that the life you've been living no longer fits who you are. You see the truth. You feel the gap between your potential and your reality. Struggle follows. This is where the tests begin. Doubt, fear, and resistance show up to see if you're serious. This is the part most people quit. But heroes don't quit. They adapt. They learn. They get stronger. And then comes transformation. The quiet, unspoken moment when you realize you've changed. You look back and see that the person who began the journey could never have survived what you just did. That's the real victory. Not the prize, but the person you became in pursuit of it. Stop waiting for permission. Most people never rise because they keep waiting for permission. Permission to start. Permission to be ready. Permission to believe in themselves. But no one is coming to give it to you. No mentor. No miracle. No moment. The door you're waiting for is already open. You just have to walk through it. The hero doesn't ask if it's allowed. They act because it's necessary. They stop seeking approval and start seeking alignment with their truth, their vision, their purpose. Becoming your own hero means realizing that no one else is responsible for your rescue. You are. The story of the firefighter. There was once a firefighter who ran into a burning house to save a child. Afterward, someone asked, "Weren't you afraid?" He said, "Of course I was afraid. But fear didn't make the decision. Duty did." That's heroism. Not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. You don't have to face flames to be brave. You just have to keep showing up for yourself when it's easier to give up. Bravery is built in the quiet moments when you keep going despite the doubt. When you speak up instead of staying silent. When you take one more step when everything in you wants to stop. That's how ordinary people become extraordinary. Redefining strength. Being your own hero doesn't mean you never fall. It means you always rise. Strength isn't about pretending to have it all together. It's about standing back up. Again and again. No matter how many times you've fallen apart. The world teaches us to hide our scars. But heroes show them. Not with shame but with pride. Because scars don't mean you were broken. They mean you healed. Every challenge you've faced, every wound you've survived has been preparing you for what's next. You've been in training all along. Becoming the example. Heroes inspire not by speaking louder, but by living better. They don't force change. They become it. You don't have to save the world. Just save one day from being wasted. Just save one person from giving up. Even if that person is you. When you choose discipline over comfort, you set an example. When you choose kindness over anger, you set an example. When you choose persistence over excuses, you set an example. That's leadership. That's heroism. The world doesn't need more critics. It needs more examples. The mirror moment. There will come a day when you'll look in the mirror and finally recognize the person staring back. You'll see the strength in your eyes. You'll see the calm in your posture. You'll see the quiet pride of someone who fought battles no one else knew about, and won. That's your hero moment. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with peace. Because deep down you'll know, you didn't wait for the world to change. You changed yourself, and that made all the difference. How to live as your own hero. Step 1. Take responsibility. Own your life. Every choice, every outcome. Heroes don't blame. They build. Step 2. Trust the process. Progress takes time. You're not failing. You're forming. Step 3. Lead yourself. Don't wait for guidance. Be your own leader. Make decisions that your future self will thank you for. Step 4. Give back. A true hero lifts others once they rise. Share what you've learned. Inspire through example. Step 5. Stay humble. Heroes don't forget where they started. They remember the struggle, and they use it to stay grounded and grateful. The legacy within. One day, your story will inspire someone else to fight their battles. They'll hear your words, see your example, and say, if they could do it, maybe I can too. That's how heroism spreads, one life at a time. You may never know whose path you light by walking bravely through your own. Your life is not small. Your example is not unnoticed. Every time you choose courage, someone watching you finds permission to do the same. Closing thought. Becoming your own hero is not about being fearless. It's about being faithful to your vision, your purpose, and your progress. It's about realizing that the person you've been waiting for has been you all along. So stop waiting. Pick up the sword of self-belief. Face your dragons, the doubt, the fear, the excuses, and rise. Because the story of you versus you was never about defeating anyone else. It's about becoming the person your past self dreamed of. The hero who didn't give up. The hero who kept fighting. The hero who finally won. And when that moment comes, when you stand tall, unshaken, unbroken and free, you'll know the truth. You didn't just survive your story. You rewrote it. You became the hero you were always meant to be. Conclusion. The ongoing battle. The battle never truly ends. Every morning, when you wake up, it begins again. The world doesn't decide your future. You do. Through your choices, through your habits, through the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching. That's you versus you. The only fight that ever really mattered. The endless journey. There's no finish line to self-mastery. No final day when you've conquered every weakness or silenced every doubt. Growth doesn't end. It evolves. Discipline doesn't disappear. It deepens. Purpose doesn't fade. It expands. The person you are becoming is not a destination. It's a direction. You will fall. You will rise. And then you will fall again. But each time, you'll rise a little stronger, a little wiser, a little freer. That's how transformation works. Quietly, gradually, relentlessly. The mirror and the mountain. Look back for a moment. You started this journey standing before a mirror. You faced your truth. You saw the gap between who you were and who you could be. Since then, you've crossed valleys of doubt, climbed mountains of discipline, and walked through the fires of pain and progress. Now look again, not into the same mirror, but from a new mountain. You're not the same person who began this path. Your scars have become strength. Your fears have become fuel. Your story has become your power. That's what growth does. It turns every wound into wisdom, every setback into a step forward. The test of every day. Each day will test you. The old you will whisper, "You've done enough." The new you will answer, "I'm just getting started." That's the daily conversation of progress, the internal dialogue that defines your destiny. Some days, the old you will win, and that's okay. What matters is that you return to the fight, because the goal was never perfection. It was persistence, to stay in the arena, no matter how many times you fall. That's victory. That's strength. You become unbreakable, not by never losing, but by never leaving. The battle for integrity. As you continue this journey, remember, the real measure of growth is integrity. It's how closely your actions align with your values, how consistently you choose what's right over what's easy. Success without integrity will always feel hollow, but progress with purpose, that's fulfillment. Be honest with yourself. Be loyal to your standards. Be ruthless with your excuses. The battle for your best self is not fought once. It's fought in every moment you choose truth over comfort. The legacy of effort. You may not see the full impact of your growth today, but make no mistake, every act of discipline, every decision of courage, is shaping something greater than you can imagine. Your consistency will become your reputation, your habits will become your legacy, and your journey will become the example that helps others start theirs. Because the fight you're fighting isn't just for you. It's for everyone, watching quietly, hoping to find the strength to fight their own. The world changes when one person decides to rise, and maybe that person is you. The eternal choice. At the end of every day, you face one simple question: did I move closer to my best self or further away? There's no standing still. You're always becoming something. Stronger or weaker, wiser or distracted, focused or lost. And that's why this battle matters. Because every small victory shapes the person you're becoming. And that person, in time, will shape your entire life. The fight never stops, but neither does your potential. The peace in the battle. It might sound exhausting, the idea that the fight never ends. But in truth, it's freeing. Because the ongoing battle means there's always more to become, more to learn, more to give. Peace doesn't come from escaping the fight. It comes from embracing it, knowing that every challenge is shaping you, not breaking you. The battle is not a burden. It's a blessing. It's proof that you're still in the game, still evolving, still alive. Closing words. You've come a long way. You've faced the mirror. You've confronted your comfort. You've built discipline, broken patterns, embraced pain, and discovered purpose. And through it all, you've learned the greatest truth of all. You are both the problem and the solution, the villain and the hero, the student and the teacher. This journey was never about winning once. It was about learning to rise forever. So keep fighting, keep choosing, keep building, keep becoming. Because the battle for your best self doesn't end here. It continues in the choices you make tomorrow and every day after that. And someday, when you look back, you won't see a perfect life. You'll see a powerful one, a life of courage, a life of growth, a life that mattered. And you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because through every fight, every setback, every victory, you never stopped showing up for the one person who needed you most.